I was sitting in a quiet train car in Switzerland when an American family got on. The mom immediately answered her phone and started telling her entire life story at full volume. Everyone around her froze. People looked up from their books. A businessman slowly removed his glasses. The mom kept going, laughing louder, talking about her vacation plans while her husband unpacked snacks that crinkled like fireworks. In Europe, the quiet car means quiet. Not whisper quiet, silent. The kind of silence where you can hear someone turn a page. This family treated it like their living room. After 10 minutes, a German woman stood up, walked over, and pointed to the silence symbol on the window. The American mom looked confused. "Oh, we're being quiet," she said, at normal volume. The German woman just stared. The entire car stayed silent until the family got off 3 stops later. Nobody clapped, but you could feel the relief. That same week, my friend who works at a hotel in Amsterdam told me about an American guest who complained that the elevator was broken. She went down to check. The elevator worked fine. The guest said, "No, it's broken. It won't move until I press a button." My friend explained that European elevators don't have a close door button that works instantly. You press your floor and wait. The guest insisted this was bad design. "In America, you press close and it goes right away," he said. My friend nodded. "Yes, but here the elevator is programmed to wait for others. It's more efficient." The guest wrote a negative review anyway. Another story came from a barista in Vienna. An American couple ordered coffee and asked for it to go. The barista said they don't do to-go cups. The couple looked shocked. "What do you mean?" "Just put it in a paper cup." The barista explained that in Vienna, coffee culture means you sit and drink. You don't walk around with it. The couple argued for 5 minutes, saying this made no sense. Finally, they sat down, drank their coffee in 3 minutes, and left. The barista said they looked annoyed the whole time, like sitting was some kind of punishment. One more, before we dive deeper. A tour guide in Paris told me about an American tourist who got upset because shops closed for 2 hours at lunch. "What kind of business closes in the middle of the day?" the tourist asked. The guide explained it's normal in France. People take real lunch breaks. The tourist said, "That's why Europe's economy is behind." The guide didn't respond. Later, that same tourist complained that everyone in Paris seemed relaxed and happy. He didn't connect the dots. These stories keep coming. Americans abroad often struggle with unspoken rules that locals grow up knowing. It's not about being rude. It's about different expectations. Let me share more of these moments. I worked as a train attendant in Germany for 2 years. One afternoon, an American family boarded with massive suitcases and blocking the aisle. In Germany, you're expected to store luggage quickly and sit down. This family took 10 minutes rearranging bags, discussing which seat faced forward, and asking if they could switch cars. The train was already moving. Other passengers squeezed past them, silent but clearly frustrated. When I suggested they sit down, the dad said, "We paid for these seats. We'll take our time." I explained that blocking the aisle is a safety issue. He looked at me like I was overreacting. Another time in the Netherlands, an American couple got on a tram without validating their tickets. The inspector came by and asked to see their passes. They showed him their credit card. "We tapped when we got on," they said. The inspector explained they needed to tap the card reader at the door. "But we have the card," the woman insisted. That should be enough. The inspector gave them a fine. They argued that the system was confusing and that America's transit is clearer. The inspector said nothing and moved on. My cousin drives buses in Belgium. He told me about an American passenger who tried to board through the exit door. When my cousin pointed to the front entrance, the passenger said, "It's the same bus. What's the difference?" My cousin explained that the front is for boarding, the back for exiting. It keeps flow organized. The passenger rolled his eyes and walked around. Later, he pressed the stop button 5 times in a row because he thought it wasn't working. It was. Pressing once is enough. The whole bus heard the repeated dings. A friend who works at a train station in Italy said an American tourist asked why there were no trash cans on the platform. She explained they removed most of them for security reasons after terrorism concerns in the 90s. The tourist said, "So where do I throw this?" and held up a coffee cup. She pointed to a bin near the entrance, about 30 feet away. He sighed. "In America, there's a trash can every 10 feet. She nodded. "Yes, but in Italy, you walk to the bin." He left the cup on a bench. One of the funniest stories came from a subway worker in Stockholm. An American asked if he could bring his bike on the train during rush hour. The worker said no, bikes aren't allowed during peak times. The American argued that he saw someone with a bike last week. The worker explained that was probably during off-peak hours. "This is stupid," the American said. "I paid for a subway pass. I should be able to bring whatever I want." The worker stayed calm. The rule is for space. During rush hour, the train is full. The American muttered something about freedom and took his bike back up the stairs. In Spain, my co-worker saw an American couple sitting in reserved seats on a high-speed train. When the people who actually reserved those seats arrived, the American said, "We got here first." The Spanish passengers showed their tickets with seat numbers. The Americans didn't understand the concept. "You can sit anywhere on a train," the man said. My co-worker had to intervene and explain that in Europe, reserved means reserved. The couple moved but complained loudly that this system was unnecessarily complicated. Another passenger story from France. An American asked the conductor why the train had no cup holders. The conductor said most European trains don't. The American said, "How are people supposed to drink coffee?" The conductor suggested holding the cup or placing it on the fold-down table. The American said that was inconvenient. In the US, every seat has cup holders. Even cheap buses have them. The conductor smiled politely. Here, people usually finish their coffee before boarding. I heard about a situation in Prague where an American family tried to board a tram with strollers during the morning commute. The tram was packed. Locals waited for the next one, but the family pushed in anyway. Someone said, in English, "Maybe next tram is better." The American mom said, "We have kids. People should make room." Nobody moved. The family squeezed in, and the whole ride was uncomfortable. When they got off, one of them said loudly, "People here are so unfriendly." A local woman responded in perfect English, "We were waiting for the next tram. You could have two." Last one for this section. A train ticket agent in Austria told me an American wanted to buy a ticket on the platform right before departure. In Austria, you buy tickets inside the station or online ahead of time. The agent explained this. The American said, "Can't you just sell me one now?" The agent said he didn't have the system for that. "This is so backwards," the American said. "In the US, you can buy tickets anywhere, anytime." The agent nodded. "Yes, but here you plan ahead." The American missed his train and had to wait an hour for the next one. I worked in a restaurant in Rome for 5 years. One evening, an American couple ordered pasta and immediately asked for a spoon. In Italy, you eat pasta with just a fork. I brought the spoon anyway. They used it to twirl the pasta against, which Italians consider childish. Other diners noticed. One elderly Italian man shook his head. When the Americans finished, they asked for Parmesan cheese to add to their seafood pasta. I hesitated. Italians never put cheese on seafood. The chef actually came out and politely explained this. The American man said, "I like cheese. Why can't I have it?" The chef gave in, but you could see he was disappointed. Another story from a cafe in Copenhagen. An American asked for tap water with his meal. The waiter said they charge for water. The American couldn't believe it. "Water should be free," he said. The waiter explained that in Denmark, restaurant water isn't free like in the US. The American said, "That's a scam." He didn't order water and complained about it in his online review later. My friend worked at a bistro in Lyon. An American couple asked to split an entree. In France, this isn't common. My friend said they could, but there'd be a plate-sharing fee. The couple got upset. We just want to share. Why charge extra? My friend explained the restaurant prices dishes expecting one person per plate. The couple said this was nickel and diming. They ordered separately but left a bad tip. In Munich, a waiter told me about Americans who snapped their fingers to get his attention. In Germany, you make eye contact or raise your hand slightly. Snapping is considered rude. The waiter ignored them at first, thinking they'd figure it out. They snapped louder. Finally, he came over and politely mentioned that snapping isn't how you call a waiter here. One of the Americans said, "Well, you weren't coming over." The waiter explained he was attending to other tables in order. They didn't seem to understand. A bartender in Dublin shared a story about an American who ordered an Irish coffee and asked them to make it quickly because he was in a hurry. Making a proper Irish coffee takes time. You have to layer it correctly. The bartender said it would take a few minutes. The American said, "Just mix it fast." The bartender explained that rushing ruins the drink. The American sighed and waited, checking his watch twice. When he got the coffee, he drank it in 3 gulps and left. In Portugal, an American diner asked for ketchup with his seafood rice. The waiter's face fell. Seafood rice is a traditional dish with specific flavors. Adding ketchup is like adding chocolate to wine. The waiter brought the ketchup, but looked pained doing it. The American poured it on generously. Other diners stared. One Portuguese woman whispered to her husband in Portuguese, and my co-worker translated later. She'd said, "Why even order it?" Another moment from a bakery in Paris. An American asked for a croissant and wanted it heated in the microwave. The baker said they don't microwave croissants. The American said, "I like it warm." The baker explained that microwaving ruins the texture. Fresh croissants are already good at room temperature. The American insisted. The baker refused. The customer left without buying anything, muttering that French people are difficult. In Greece, a taverna owner told me about Americans who showed up at 9 p.m. and were surprised the kitchen was just opening. In Greece, dinner starts late. The Americans said they were starving and asked why restaurants don't open earlier. The owner explained it's cultural. People eat late. The Americans said, "That's just bad business. You'd make more money opening at 6. The owner smiled. "We're busy enough." A pizzeria in Naples had an American ask for pineapple as a topping. The pizza maker said they don't have pineapple. The American asked why not. "People like Hawaiian pizza," he said. The pizza maker, an older Neapolitan man, said flatly, "Not here." The American seemed offended, like this was a personal rejection. He ordered a margarita instead, but looked unhappy about it. Another American in a tapas bar in Barcelona ordered one dish and expected a full meal. Tapas are small plates meant for sharing. The waiter explained you usually order several. The American said, "Why don't you just serve normal portions?" The waiter said this is how Spanish dining works. You try many things. The American ordered 3 more plates reluctantly and kept saying it was overpriced. In Belgium, a waiter told me an American asked why fries came with mayo instead of ketchup. The waiter said mayo is traditional with Belgian fries. The American said, "Mayo is for sandwiches." The waiter brought ketchup, but mentioned that Belgians prefer mayo because it complements the fries' flavor better. The American tried the mayo, didn't like it, and used ketchup anyway. A cafe in Vienna had an American who sat down and waited for someone to bring a menu. In Vienna, you sometimes grab a menu from the counter yourself. After 10 minutes, he waved at the waiter, annoyed. The waiter pointed to the menus by the door. The American said, "You should bring them to the table." The waiter said, "You can take one when you sit." The American grumbled that service was terrible. Last story here. A trattoria in Florence had an American ask if they could make the pasta gluten-free. The chef said no, they only use traditional pasta. The American said, "Every restaurant in the US has gluten-free options." The chef shrugged. "This is Italy. We make pasta the traditional way." The American left. and found another restaurant. I worked at a hotel in Switzerland. An American guest called the front desk at 11 p.m. asking about breakfast times. I answered quietly because it was late. He spoke at full volume, laughing and chatting. I gently mentioned that it's quiet hours after 10. He said, "Oh, I'm not being that loud." I could hear him clearly from down the hall. After midnight, another guest complained. I had to call his room. He apologized, but seemed confused why it mattered. In Germany, my neighbor told me about an American exchange student who wore shoes inside everyone's apartment. In Germany, you take shoes off at the door. The student kept forgetting. After the third reminder, the host family left slippers by the door with a note. The student thought it was a gift and wore them outside. The host mom had to explain again. The student said, "In America, we don't do this." The host mom replied, "Here, we do." A gym worker in Sweden said an American member talked on the phone while on the treadmill. In Sweden, phone calls in gyms are frowned upon. It's shared space. Someone asked him politely to step outside for the call. The American said, "I'm exercising. I can multitask." The staff eventually had to enforce the rule. The American complained it was too strict. In the Netherlands, a librarian told me an American tourist walked in speaking loudly to his friend. Libraries in the Netherlands are very quiet. The librarian approached and whispered a reminder. The American whispered back, "We're just talking." The librarian said even whispered conversations should happen in the lobby. The American seemed annoyed, but moved. A Finnish colleague shared that an American visitor tried to make small talk with strangers on the metro. In Finland, people value personal space and silence on public transit. The American asked someone about their day. The person answered briefly and went back to their phone. The American tried again with someone else. Same response. Later, the American said Finns were unfriendly. My colleague explained it's not unfriendly, just different norms. In Austria, a shop owner said an American walked in and didn't greet her. In Austria, you say hello when entering a shop, even if you're just browsing. After a few minutes, the owner said hello herself, a bit pointedly. The American said hi back casually. When he left without buying anything, he also didn't say goodbye. The owner muttered that tourists forget basic politeness. A Norwegian friend told me about an American who visited during Christmas and was shocked that most stores were closed. "It's a holiday," my friend said. The American replied, "Yeah, but people still need to shop." My friend explained that in Norway, holidays mean businesses close, so workers can be with family. The American said, "In the US, everything's open on Christmas, even some gas stations." In Denmark, someone told me an American asked why everyone biked so much. "Don't you have cars?" The local explained that biking is faster in the city, better for the environment, and healthier. The American said, "But what if it rains?" The local said, "We use rain gear." The American seemed to think this was impractical. A tour guide in Iceland said an American tourist asked if they could go off-trail to get a better photo. The guide said no, it damages the environment. The American said, "It's just one photo." The guide explained that thousands of tourists think the same thing, which destroys the landscape. The American stayed on the trail but seemed frustrated. In Spain, someone told me an American was surprised that stores close for siesta. "You lose business hours," the American said. The local explained that siesta allows people to rest during the hottest part of the day and spend time with family. The American said, "Seems lazy." The local didn't respond. A co-worker in Poland said an American got upset that shops aren't open on Sundays. Poland has a law restricting Sunday shopping. The American said, "What if I need something?" The co-worker said, "You plan ahead or wait until Monday." The American called it inconvenient. In Scotland, someone shared that an American complained about the lack of air conditioning in homes. "How do you survive summer?" The local said, "It doesn't get that hot here." The American insisted it was necessary. The local said, "We open windows." A Belgian said an American visitor was surprised that neighbors don't chat over fences. In Belgium, people are more private. The American tried greeting neighbors multiple times. They nodded politely but didn't engage. The American later said Europeans are cold. The Belgian explained it's not coldness, just different boundaries. In Ireland, a bartender said an American tried to order rounds for strangers without asking first. In Ireland, buying rounds is common, but usually among people you know. The strangers accepted but seemed awkward. The American thought he was being friendly. The bartender later explained that it can feel intrusive. In France, someone said an American asked why people don't smile at strangers on the street. The local said, "We smile when there's a reason." The American said, "In the US, we smile to be polite." The local said, "Here, we're polite in other ways." A Swiss person told me an American was surprised that neighbors reported noise violations. In Switzerland, rules are taken seriously. The American said, "People should just talk to each other first." The Swiss person said, "We have rules. You follow them." In Italy, someone said an American asked why people dress up just to go to the grocery store. The local said, "We take pride in appearance." The American said, "That seems exhausting." The local shrugged. Last one. In Portugal, an American asked why everyone takes so long to eat dinner. The local said, "We enjoy it. Meals are social." The American said, "We eat fast so we can do other things." The local said, "This is what we do." One final story before we wrap up. A hotel manager in Prague told me about an American guest who complained that his room didn't have a TV remote with English labels. The remote had universal symbols: arrows, volume bars, power icons. The guest insisted he couldn't figure it out without words. The manager came up and demonstrated each button. The guest watched and said, "Why not just label them in English?" The manager said, "The symbols work in every language." The guest still seemed annoyed. These stories aren't about Americans being bad travelers. They're about clashing expectations. In the US, certain things are standard: free water, quick service, air conditioning, constant convenience. In other countries, the standards are different. Neither is wrong. They're just different. The confusion happens when people expect their home rules to apply everywhere. What makes these moments funny is the escalation. Someone encounters something unfamiliar, and instead of adapting, they double down. They argue that their way makes more sense. They leave reviews. They tell stories about how backwards Europe is. Meanwhile, locals just shrug and go about their day. The truth is, every country has unspoken rules. Americans have plenty too. Try splitting a restaurant check 12 ways in the US, and you'll get annoyed looks. Try skipping the line at Starbucks, and people will call you out. Try walking slowly in the middle of a New York sidewalk, and you'll hear about it. Every culture has things that locals know and outsiders miss. The difference is that Americans often travel with the assumption that their systems are universal. When they're not, it feels like bad design rather than just different design. That's where the culture clash happens. I've collected hundreds of these stories over the years. They keep coming. Every week someone tells me about an American tourist who couldn't understand why shops close for lunch, or why you can't drink coffee while walking, or why trains don't have cup holders, or why waiters don't bring the check immediately. And honestly, these moments make the world more interesting. They're reminders that normal is relative. What's polite in one place is rude in another. What's efficient in one country is slow in another. What's friendly in one culture is intrusive somewhere else. So next time you travel, remember that you're the one who's different. The locals aren't confused. You are, and that's okay. Just don't snap your fingers at the waiter. Don't wear shoes inside someone's home. Don't talk loudly in the quiet car. And definitely don't put ketchup on seafood rice. These stories never stop coming. I'll probably have enough for 10 more videos, maybe 20, because as long as people travel, they'll bring their expectations with them. And when those expectations meet reality, something funny usually happens. That's it for now.